Hi everyone, it's Colleen and welcome to my YouTube channel. I would love it if you would hit the little bell to subscribe to my channel and then you'll get notified of future YouTube videos by me. And also if you like what you see, please hit the thumbs up button. Today I'm participating in a Team Tiny Sparkle Blends hop. It's a YouTube hop, and if you want to find out more about the other participants, use the hashtag Team Tiny Sparkle Blends hop. I'll have it located in my description below. Today I'm going to be making a shaker card with you, and I really hope that you enjoy this. So with that, let's get started. So I'm starting with a new die set by the Greetery. It's a macrame line of dies, and they're made to work together and you can build upon each other. So I grabbed two of them here, and I'm die cutting one layer with some mirrored black cardstock by Altenew, and I'm running it through my die cut machine. And what I really like about that mirrored black cardstock is that it's just a naturally shiny cardstock, and I really wanted that top layer to pop. Isn't that pretty? So now that that layer is done, I'm going to work on the window layer where the sequins will end up going beneath. So I'm just lining it up on my card base, and I'm adhering it with some washi tape to make sure that it doesn't shift in my die cut machine, because I want this to be as straight as possible. So now I'm just going to run that through my die cut machine, and now I have both of my layers done, and they're really pretty. I love this macrame set by the Greetery. So the next step is to create a little bit of color behind the window that I've just created, and I'm using Altenew's Lagoon ink and doing a direct to paper inking. I'm not worried about how beautiful this looks because all I'm looking for is some color behind my little window. So you can see here that I'm testing it out, and look how it pops now that you've added a little color, and that black even looks like it stands out more. So that's the exact look I was going for. So now I'm going to be adding a clear window using Judikins Embossable window plastic. What that does is provides a little bit of a shine like a window, but it also will protect and keep the sequins in their proper place. So right now I'm just adhering that to the back of that card base. And you won't see but a little bit of shine with that, but it is a great barrier to use when you're working with shaker cards. So now the next step is to prepare the shaker so that my sequins have a place to go and not fall out. So I am using some tape that will keep the sequins in place. And I actually end up using two layers of this tape. This is like a 3M um, foam tape, and it's great. I love this. It comes in a really huge thick roll. So you can see how much I've used here because my roll's getting low. But I'm just creating and boxing in each side so that when I put my sequins in there, they won't fall out of the card. So now that that's done, now I'm ready to place my sequins. And the sequins that I'm using are called Sparkle Blends Birthstone collection, and it's from the Sparkle Blends shop. It's an Etsy shop, and I will put that in my description below as well if you'd like to shop. These are really gorgeous sequins. So right now I'm just trying to place my sequins where I want them behind the window. And now I'm going to add some liquid glue over that foam tape just to give me a little bit of wiggle room when I go to adhere it. I find for me that it's a little bit awkward to get those shaker sequins in the right place. I always find that I end up not lining up my card base right or something. So I thought this would be the easiest way to do it, but you do what works for you. So now I've got it adhered in place and my sequins are set. They're not going to go anywhere. They're stuck in there for good. So now the next step will be to add my mirrored black macrame layer over the top. And it's so, so pretty when it's over the top of it. The blue and the black just look so stunning together. Isn't that pretty? So I've got that adhered and I've got my sequins all secure in their little spot in there. So now I'm ready to work on my flowers. These are the flowers that I'm using from Altenew. This is a gorgeous set called Cartoon Rose, and it's the flowers, layered flowers, and it also comes with a stencil and the die cut. And I'm going to be using all three of them today, but I'm starting by stamping my largest flower. And I'm going to be stamping a couple flowers and a couple leaves, and then I'm going to be doing some ink blending and ink layering. So I am using the Altenew inks that come in a set of four, and the colors I'm using are blush, crimson, ruby red, which is really pretty, and velvet. And they go together, the set of inks, so they really blend nicely. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just using my stencil as a mask and I'm blending over that flower with the lightest shade of ink, which is the blush. I just want a nice soft layer using my blending brush before I start to add the other layers to my flower. And I love using the stencil because it just gives it a bit of a different look and a more of an even coverage look. So now I'm doing the same thing with my other flower, just lining the stencil up over the flower, using it as a mask and applying that blush ink over it. Isn't that pretty? So the next step now will be to add the remaining layers of my flowers. This is just a really gorgeous, unique flower set, layering flowers. And the the end result is just really pretty. It's a different look than some of the other Altenew layered flowers. So right now I'm just layering up the next layer on there, getting it lined up, and I'm going with my second darkest shade, and I'm going to stamp that over the lightest shade that I just inked down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going with each layer. I believe there are 4 layers to this layered flower set. So now we're on layer 3, and I'm going with the next darkest ink, and I'm going to add that too. So you can see how the Altenew inks work really, really well to create a beautiful blend when you're working with layered stamps. So now I'm going in with my final layer, my last layer, and I'm going to use the darkest ink over that layer. So you start with the lightest ink when you're layering and go from light to dark. See how cool that looks? It's so unique. So now I'm going to work with the leaves. And I like to stamp a lot of leaves because when I'm laying out my foliage on a card, I really like a lot of leaves. So I tend to stamp several of them, 4 or 5, even 6, and make sure I have enough. And now what I'm going to do is the same thing I did before. Now these leaves don't come with layered stamp layers, so I'm going to be doing some layering using just my blending brush and the ink color. So I brought it up closer, the screen up closer, so that you could see what I'm doing here. So I'm using the stencil and I'm starting with the lightest ink, which is called Mountain Mist. And this is Altenew inks as well. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to go in with Volcano Lake, which is the next darkest color. Then I'm going to go in with Lagoon. And finally, I'm going in with the darkest color, which is Emerald. These are such beautiful shades of ink. I think they might be my favorite, to tell you the truth. But I really thought that this would just complement the blue that's in the card, in the background, in the shaker part, and I thought it would complement the pretty shades of red from the flower. So I'm just showing you how I do this by just using the stencil and going from light to darker so that you have a little bit of an ombre effect with the leaves. And you don't have to, it doesn't have to look perfect because leaves don't look perfect. But I just wanted to get some nice, pretty coverage and not have the layers be one color. So I decided to use all four of the colors. And it ended up working out pretty good. So here's what they look like now that they're finished. They look pretty good, don't they? So now I'm ready to work on my sentiment. And the sentiment is also from the Greetery. And I really love these sentiments because they're bold and they're big and they come with a set of matching dies. And it's nice because you the word ends up die cutting all together. So you don't have little pieces here and there. It's just one big word. And you'll see that in a minute. So right now I'm going to do some heat embossing using Wow embossing powder in primary Lagoon. Isn't that pretty color? So now that I have that done, I'm going to place the die right over the top, adhere it into place, and I'm using my Altenew mini die cut machine. I just got this, so you can see I'm not really sure how to use it. But once I used it, I thought, wow, this is a really nifty little die cut machine when you're die cutting little pieces or sentiments. It was so easy to use. And so now you'll see here in just a second that my die comes out in one piece. Isn't that awesome? And it's a nice big bold die. Now that I have all my pieces into place, I'm ready to start placing everything. Now for me, before I adhere everything, I put it in the place where I want it. So I play with it a little bit. The flowers, the leaves, and I make sure that everything is just where I want it. And once it is, then I go back and adhere everything down, starting with the bottom layers and then working up to the top layers. And I use liquid glue. Here, this is a Nuvo liquid glue because I find that the liquid glue gives me a little wiggle room if I want to move my leaves or my flowers around a little bit before it completely sets. So I really like how the blues and the greens and the reds go together, even though the blues are not all the same color. I think they really look good together. So I'm just finishing up. I've just got one more leaf to add, and then I need to add my top flower. And my top flower, I'm going to pop up on some foam tape just so that it stands up a little higher than the rest and gives the card a little more dimension. And I don't know about you guys, but I have one heck of a time getting getting the that tape off or whatever that's called. It comes off of the adhesive. I always have trouble getting it off. I feel like it just sticks on there for me. Just a side note there. So now that I have my flowers in place over my shaker, now I'm ready to adhere my sentiment. And I really like that bold sentiment. I just love that set. So now I have my card put together, and the only thing left to do is to add a few more sequins from this Sparkles blend. And again, it's called Birthstone Collection, and it's December, and the colors are turquoise. And it's from the Sparkle Blends shop. So they have a bunch of different sequins, and I really like all of the different shapes and the colors that are included in there. They're actually really pretty. So you could use them for shaker cards. You can use them to put over your flowers. And if you get this macrame set by the Greetery, there are some of the dies where you can even put these sequins directly over the dies and add a little pop of shine. So that's it for my card, guys. I'm just finishing up with a little bit of shine because after all, the name of our little thing is Sparkle Blend, so we got to have sparkle. So I'm really happy that you joined me today. And again, if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting that little bell and then hitting the thumbs up if you like what you see, that would be wonderful.